get started. First, Wendy, good to see you. It's great that you're here with us, and I want to give you a moment to perhaps introduce yourself if you'd like, and for everyone to recognize our new coordinator, which we're very excited about and feel very fortunate to have Wendy helping us lead this effort. We have a pretty good agenda today. I don't think it's going to go the full 2 hours. We'll try to use everyone's time well, but we have some good things to talk about, some interesting projects in good different of process. Just to quickly go over the agenda, community solar, we'd like to make a recommendation to this group from the small group that's been looking over these proposals today, and then move that forward to the government committee. We want to get a quick update from Wendy and Bill on the benchmarking work, and Wendy's really jumped into that, which is really helpful, being on the inside of the county government, being able to help us navigate. And then a really exciting topic. We had a call yesterday, the second call on the climate carnival. So I'll leave it at that. I sent some information on that as well yesterday, kind of an overview that Susan had put together in our group, our small group, and then any other business that we want to talk about. If there's anything that needs to be said now at the outset, don't hold back to get to right away. Otherwise, I'll let Wendy introduce herself, and then we'll move into the agenda.
Oh, excuse me. I just have a question about the attendance. I have most people marked except for Claudia Kenny. Is Claudia here? Matt Stitchcomb.
Matt couldn't make it. He's traveling. He told me yesterday. And Brenda also couldn't make it. She just had an appointment she couldn't get out of.
Okay, and Jody Vale. Okay, we're all set.
And one more, thanks, Maureen. One more comment about the minutes. We are taking minutes again, thanks to Maureen, which is great. It's just really helpful. We don't, as a body, an advisory body, I don't think we need to take minutes, so we don't need to approve the minutes. But if there are any comments on the minutes, anything that people felt was missing or misrepresented, then just email me. We don't need to spend time on it because we don't need to formally adopt it. You can just email me with anything, and we'll get those corrected and then sent out a final form.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
That's awesome.
Wendy.
Hi, all. I'm Wendy. I'm the coordinator. I've been able to speak with David and also spend some time speaking with Bill this past month. And like David said, I have started the benchmarking process. It's daunting, it's very time consuming, and it's not going as quickly as I had hoped, but I am making progress, so that's good. I'm so excited to be here, and I can't wait to jump right in and to assist and keep getting us moving forward to our bronze.
Cool. That's great. So community solar, Terrence, perhaps you want to, I'm happy to as well. We can do this as a group, but Matthew, Terrence, Steve Powers, and I all kind of reviewed these proposals. We've talked about them. We have 4. We had already made a recommendation previously, people will remember, for Astral Power. And then we realized that one of the other providers, Nexamp, had not had an opportunity to provide a proposal because of bad email addresses that we had sent the request for the RFP light, I'll call it, to. And they have since done that. We reviewed the proposal in depth, had a couple meetings, email exchanges. The relevant components of that proposal was added to the spreadsheet that I forwarded yesterday. It's in the agenda email. that Terrence had put together, which is super helpful and allows us to do a side-by-side of the of the different proposals. We've reviewed that, and after discussion, we would like to recommend that we recommend to this task force that we, as a group, as a task force, formally recommend both Nexamp and Astral Power to have two providers in the county for reasons that I'll let in a minute. Terrence can provide some background on that. But before we do that, a couple changes to note in the proposal from what was written in the proposal. After we spoke with Nexamp following the proposal, we pushed back on the customer discount, the customer credit. Not the discount, that's the same. It's at least as good as the other ones. It could be better for large energy users than any of the other proposals. So that's an advantage to Nexamp. But on the customer payment, remember that there are these benefits in addition to people saving money when they sign up, or businesses or municipalities. A 10% discount rate is typical. In addition to that, the county or the municipality usually gets a cash payment per customer. That's typical of these programs. Not always, but it's often part of the incentive. And the customers get a cash payment or a coupon or some sort of like Amazon card, I think is what Sam had originally, a $75 Amazon card. Well, Astral Power had said they would provide $100 to the customer as a bonus to sign on, and $100 to the county. That's great. And we pushed them, and they said they would extend that through the life of the campaign, and there's no limit there. They get 100 customers, 200, 300, they all get the same benefit, and the county gets that payment. And obviously that's significant. If we can get to 300 customers, that's a lot of money for the county to use for this program. So we pushed back, and they agreed that for the first 100, this is Nexamp, the first 100 customers, they would pay $100 to the county and $100 to the customer. And then after that, those county payments would no longer occur, and for any customer beyond the first 100 to Nexamp, and Amazon, the customers would get, instead of $100, they'd get $75. I don't know if $100 is an Amazon gift card or not. It might be, but it drops down a bit. So that is the major difference from what was in the proposal. But I'll let Terrence add anything he thinks is relevant, and then we'll take questions and go from there. And of course, Steve and Matthew too. Sorry.
Well, sure. I can kick this off, and I do see John has his hand raised, so maybe I'll say a couple of things, and if Matthew and Steve want to add anything, and then we can get to questions. I thought the conversation we had with Nexamp, which was kind of before the holiday craziness, went well, and we learned a little bit more about their proposal, about their billing, and about kind of their approach. I think one of the things that I noticed that was really strong about their application was their approach to customer service, so that they own all of their arrays, and they're kind of in control of the whole supply to subscriber line, and they seem to take that pretty serious. Able to do direct communication, customer service through email, their online platform, but also through phone, and so they could kind of get to all residents, regardless of their internet savviness. I guess one thing that we did notice is they don't have any central Hudson capacity, but with Astral as well, that does kind of cover that corner of the county. I think it's the southeast corner that wouldn't kind of fall under Nexamp's area. And I don't know, I think they and Astral both would have preferred to have one provider, kind of one company doing all of the subscriptions in line with the county. And the four of us did weigh that to see if that would really be beneficial to us, as beneficial to us as it would be the companies. And I think what we came down to was feeling like both Nexamp and Astral had their own benefits and kind of brought enough to the table that if we recommended both, and if both were approved by the county, then they wouldn't really undermine their efforts. It shouldn't undermine their efforts to get subscribers. Matthew or Steve, do you have anything that comes to mind for you?
No, thank you. That's yeah. If they can email me directly, but I think that pretty much covers it. I did have concerns about Nexamp's lack of consolidated billing, but they explained that as well. They send 2 separate bills, which I know was a concern for some people, but as a customer of National Grid, they said that National Grid often screwed up the billing and didn't credit people correctly, and which I'm not surprised to hear. So I think Asheville does have consolidated billing. I don't think that's changed, but so there are a few bells and whistles with that, but they explained it very well and it made sense. They made a good case for it. So if anyone has any questions or concerns about that, they can email me directly. But that's the only thing that people should be aware of. And I think it's good to have 2 choices. I think it's good to have a little competition and people can choose. And certainly with the fact that Asheville has central, it covers that part of the county. So yeah, it was a very good process. So I enjoyed it.
Steve, anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say ditto on that. That in terms of the Nexamp, I think that was the only downside that I saw was the lack of consolidated billing. And as Matthew mentioned, they had their claims were because of the fact that they had problems with the utilities screwing up the billing in the past. But other than that, I think both of them are strong candidates, and I think we should approve them both.
Yeah, one thing that, just to kind of on that point of the consolidated billing, simplicity is better, but they feel that they're able to communicate what's happening in the accounting for people better when they have a separate bill and control the information as opposed to going through a utility where this is not a priority for them and they often make mistakes. Not intentionally, of course, but the mistakes happen and it confuses people more. So they also have they claim a robust customer service line, which allows for folks to get explanations. And then the last piece is they both have committed to have offered as part of this funding potentially for either in-kind or direct funding to help us pay for campaign components or things that we're interested in doing to get the word out. So that could be useful. We could potentially use that, depending on how complicated it is, to take that funding into the county for improving our website. What we envision is a single portal on our website, which allows for people that want, anyone in the county or any business they want to sign up, they hear about it, they go to this single website and they see both companies being offered there. And they see that this is something being offered through the county. So they're reassured that this is not some scam or something out there that is, just trying to take advantage of them. And then they can go in and compare. It's not going to be a very sophisticated website where they can do side-by-side shopping, but it'll at least get the information on one central place. So maybe we could use some of the funding to make that a little more efficient a process. So that's it. John had a question or a comment.
Question, just some clarification on the relationship between the towns like Claverick. They're going to bootstrap on the county effort, and how's the bonus? Is that going to be split up? Is that been resolved? I remember that was mentioned a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. And then how do we plug into the working on the marketing? And I realize that's probably a premature question.
Yeah, those are important questions. Thank you, John, for bringing them up. We, in theory, what we'd like to do is have any municipal credit, the $100 I mentioned before, that goes to the county. If a person signs up in Claverick and Claverick has with these same providers previously and had a scoping document approved through NYSERDA, so their campaign is live. They've done all the things they need to do in Claverick, and someone signs up there, that would a person signing up that would go toward our numbers at the county level and at the town level of Claverick, and that would go toward the NYSERDA having the minimum number 10 or 25 town or the county that you need for the NYSERDA credit or grant of $5,000 or $15,000. The second, so that's how that would work. Both county and town would get credit. We all know that. But John's question is about that $100. If the $100 is going to the county, what happens to Claverick? And what we'd like to do is split it. So it's $50 to both the town and $50 to the county. I don't know if Wendy's still on. I don't see her on my screen. I'm sure she's on. Oh, there she is. Wendy, I don't know if you got any clarification on that question, but we had been trying to figure out how that would work, just kind of logistically. I think you're muted, Wendy.
I'll get the hang of this. So that will be something that will be discussed once this, goes further on in the process. So your recommendations will then go to county government, and they will review it. Those types of questions, I imagine, will come up with the county attorney's office, and then they will be in connection with the county government to decide how and where the monies are going to go. So I don't have an answer for you for that. It's a little, you're still in the recommendation phase. We still have to get this approved.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Thank you. And the campaign question, John, I think we'll want to coordinate as best we can. I think more is better, and so it's a little premature. We can't get into it now, but absolutely, we'll want to do that. We'll also want to coordinate on the scoping documents to help towns get that submitted once we're able to. We're going to start working on that once it gets through the government committee. If there's some fundamental problem that we have to work through, then we don't want to get started on that until we've gotten some preliminary approval through the government committee.
I should just mention that in my briefing to my supervisor, I did mention that there was going to be some sort of split in the with that bonus award. So since he chairs the government committee, I just figured it'd be nice to make sure that's clear, or at least explained to him, so I'm not misrepresenting our proposal.
Well, that's our recommendation. That's all we can do is make a recommendation, right? So that's our recommendation. It seems sensible. Yeah. I don't know why anyone would object, but we can't say it's a guaranteed thing because we haven't been approved to do this at all yet. Tistria.
Yeah, so I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute because I want this group to convince me, because I'm one of the supervisors that will ultimately be voting on it. And I hear you, David, saying, it seems like it makes sense. But for example, New Lebanon, and not that I don't want New Lebanon getting money. I'm not, advocating against New Lebanon, but we have Ampion. So we're going to be promoting Ampion to our residents. And if a New Lebanon resident happens to sign up through the county program because you guys did a better job marketing to them and used county resources to get them to sign up, why would New Lebanon get part of that? I would love to hear from others as to because my first thought was well, no, the county should take the money and put it towards county efforts. Now, maybe it's different if there's a town that hasn't yet signed up and they're kind of signing up in conjunction with the county and they're going with the same providers. Maybe that's a different conversation. But I would love to hear from those who think it's kind of common sense that the county would split it with the towns. And again, I'm not advocating for the towns not getting money, but in my mind, that didn't seem fair. If it's the county program and the county's the one reaching out and marketing and expending the resources to get people to sign up, why the town should get half. So conversely, the county wouldn't get anything when someone signs up for Ampion in New Lebanon, and the money is coming from the provider to the customer for that subscription individually. So it seems to make sense to me that would be credited based on the subscription, and if the person is in a town
driving to the same. I understand your point. Your point is that, anything moving forward, signing up a level should go equally to any town if someone lives in a particular town. But that person signing up for Ampion wouldn't get $50; they'd get $100. So you can.
Not anymore.
Oh, sorry. It's no longer being offerred.
Right.
But what I'm saying is the town of New Lebanon isn't sharing our cut with the county. So why would the county? Your explanation didn't understand it, but like in New Lebanon, somebody signs up for Ampion, we're not then sharing that with the county. So if the county goes out and signs people up because they do a better marketing job than we as the town, why would money come to the town?
I think the simple answer is we're trying to create an incentive for those. You're like an early adopter. You guys are really out there, leading the way. And there are towns that are not early adopters. Ghent is one of them, my town, and we're working on it. We're resurrecting our Climate Smart Task Force now. And we want to give them an incentive to kind of get on board. And then the bootstrap benefit is they don't have to do much. They don't have to do all the work that you did. In terms of they could just follow, almost the template laid out by the county and use that to kind of adopt their own without having to do the whole vetting process. So it's a lot easier for them.
So maybe it could be written that way, where it's an incentive if the town basically piggybacks onto the county program, right? Which like New Lebanon wouldn't be eligible for. We've already done our thing and gotten our credits. But if that's the goal, is to incentivize town task forces to also do community solar, then maybe it's not just whatever town someone lives in, they get the credit. Like New Lebanon really doesn't deserve any of that money because, although we have members on this task, we have our own thing going on. Maybe that's the incentive, is if you're not already signed up, you can piggyback onto the county's program through your town and we'll split it with you.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's exactly right. What you just said is.
But the way it's proposed right now is that every town, like, again, I'll use New Lebanon as an example. Am I misunderstanding the way you're proposing it? Are you only proposing the 50-50 split when it's a town that's not currently signed up for community solar and signs up?
Yes. If a town happened to sign up with Nexamp or Astral Power previously and someone subscribes, that's a little bit of a gray area. It wasn't because of the bootstrap, but they would presumably qualify the same way because they happen to be the same provider.
Right. And you don't want to take away from the town. Like if you guys were signing up with Ampion, I think it should be split with New Lebanon because we're going to help promote from here on out for new enrollments. So maybe I just misunderstood then.
Yeah, we could, if a town had previously signed up, for, we could ask for the following. The town had previously signed up for one of these providers, so they're grandfathered in at $100 for that town. If someone signs up and the county gets nothing, but so we're really focused on the bootstrap towns. We're saying if a town decides to really kind of come on board in conjunction with the county and is doing it, contemporaneously with our efforts, then that would become a 50-50 split, any of those people. It's a little more complicated to explain, but it might be fair.
Yeah, I want to just add, for other towns who have not, were not early adopters, like we submitted our scoping document premised on the county's program. And we've been approved by NYSERDA, so we're ready to go with the county whenever that happens. And it was a really pretty simple process. Looked at other scoping documents, we talked about it and submitted it, and it was a very easy process.
That's interesting. And Susan, I see your hand, and Dan as well. Sorry, but I just want to ask one question there. We haven't started our scoping document at the county level, partly because it's supposed to describe the campaign and the providers that you're working with. So I'd be curious how you did that without knowing who the providers would be.
We just said that that the county is doing it, and I'll check our scoping documents and pass that along. But Tara maybe can say more about it because Josh worked with her a little bit, and but it was it was premised on whatever the county chooses as vendors, that's who we're gonna work with and as part of your program.
And just
to be comfortable with it. Tara, go ahead.
Yeah. And just to clarify, yeah, so NYSERDA doesn't care if you don't have to choose your provider prior to submitting the scoping document. You can actually just indicate that you are in the process of choosing your provider, and they don't require that you update them on that. So
Okay, that's good to know. Susan, you had your hand up first, I think.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking perhaps condition a share of the incentive going to towns on two things. One, that the town actively promote. That is, if they have an email distribution list or town newsletter or something, take some steps to actively promote the community solar initiative to their town residents. And the second being that they commit to using the funds for a climate initiative.
That makes sense.
Those are great suggestions. Dan. I think you're muted, Dan. Still can't hear you. I don't
There we
know.
go. I got it. All right. I'm just asking as the climate coordinator for COPEG. I just want to make sure I understand, because we've been working for about a year now towards bronze. How would this translate to points towards bronze for just an individual town? Would it depend on the number of people who signed up, or simply, getting involved with community solar? Just want to make sure I understand that clearly.
Yeah, I can't remember offhand. Someone else can on this call for sure what the criteria are for. I know for NYSERDA, we need a certain number of signups to get that credit through the Clean Energy Communities program. But your question is about the credit you get for Climate Smart. And there's, I think, 3 points, or there's some number of points you get. So 3 points for the CSC program. Tara just texted. Are there any particular requirements other than having success? How do you demonstrate that you've run a community solar campaign for the purpose?
yeah, so it's exactly the same as the clean energy qualification. So getting 10, or in the county's case, 25.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So does that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
That's kind of what I understood.
Great. Matthew.
Yeah, thanks. I just had timeline questions. So I just want to be clear, because I want to report back to my own task force. So the Board of Supervisors is going to approve this at their next meeting, hopefully. And then each town can, if the towns want to piggyback, like Germantown wants to piggyback, then we can propose our scoping documents. So that's the first question. I just want to know the timeline. But then also, and I perhaps should have researched this myself, so forgive me, Tara, I don't know. In terms of funding, there's probably a sense of urgency with the county or the towns. I don't know how much money is left for these community solar campaigns. That might be a separate meeting. But I was just curious about that, if you knew offhand, if it's going to get renewed or what.
So the points are available regardless of the grant availability.
Right.
Those will stay the same.
Okay.
The grants are limited, and they're statewide. And there's only, I want to say, maybe 6 left for small communities statewide.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's very possible. I think there's 4 for large communities, including the county, but those aren't going as quickly because there's not as many. So they did go quickly over the course of this year because it's very popular.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was. Yeah, because Germantown's obviously interested, so we'll have to look at that. And because Germantown needs to hit the ground running, because we're a smaller community. So if I can pull off what John did and just propose the scoping documents right away, so that when the campaign starts, Germantown can get hit the ground running. That's what would be the ideal situation. So John, I'd like to talk about that and see how. Yeah, because I'd like to do that at our next meeting, and if that's possible. If as Tara says, that's all right. Because then once the campaign, so the county campaign would then begin in February?
They 20th of this month, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then it would go to the full board the beginning of February. I don't have the exact dates.
Okay. So roughly, okay, so February,
Patrice?
County government, they changed the dates this year. They're now on Wednesday, so the meeting is on the 19th.
Oh, good.
Okay. So the submission for the committee meeting is due, it has to be posted by the clerk's office on the Friday before, which is the 14th. So I would actually like to have all of your whole package that needs to be included for submitting to the Board of Supervisors on the 13th. So that gives me time to organize it, create the paperwork that I need to submit to Kelly in order to get it on the agenda. So the week before, basically.
Okay, that's great, Patrice. We'll make sure we do that. Now, other than the proposals, we'll clean up our spreadsheet and add that as an attachment. We'll remove the other two providers. Just keep this as, these two. Other than that, and a formal recommendation, which we'll get to in a minute here. What else might you need? I know that we've talked about having the two companies come in on that Wednesday, and I'm sure they will make every effort to do that. I assume we want to still do that. It's a virtual meeting. Are the meetings virtual or in
yes,
person?
The meetings are virtual still, yes.
That should be pretty easy for them. Just want to resolve that, and we can talk about that more offline, but if there's anything that is relevant for discussion now, Patrice, in terms of what we need to provide, that would be helpful. Otherwise, you and I can just talk about it, and our group can pull together what you need.
I think what you described would be sufficient, and also the documentation of the process that you followed to come to the recommendation would be helpful, so that they understand how you made the determination and how you selected these. And I think you would also want to include those that were eliminated. So some sort of a rating or how you prioritize them. If there is a ranking system that you use, it's something like that to give them an idea of how you selected the two that you're recommending for them to engage with. So
okay, we'll put together a little memo with that as well.
Okay, great. That's perfect. Thanks.
David, I may have missed this, and I apologize if I did, but if we're still piggybacking on another thing that's not on that New York State list, if you remember, the county attorney said we needed the RFP from that municipality stating that it was allowed to be piggybacked on.
Wendy has, correct me if I'm wrong, Wendy, but my understanding is that you've gotten the go-ahead for Astral to be approved as a potential provider.
I got permission from the county attorney's office that we can proceed as scheduled and have them both present at the county government meeting.
Is there some, sorry, Denal, I'm going to get to you in a minute, but is there some potential that there'll be a problem, or are they going to be asked? It'd be great to prepare them if they're going to be asked for some specific information. Previously, we've gone back through many rounds of requests for information. It's been a little unclear what the county is actually looking for. The latest until recently was language in the other, like if they had signed up through an RFP process in another community, that RFP for town or county X previously included language saying that process could be used in another municipality in the future. I'm not at a county or municipal law or government and contracts, but that's just seemed it was interesting that would even be a provision in an RFP. But Astral Power, when I went to them, said that they didn't know of anything in any of the RFPs, and they asked for sample language in the RFP that actually shows up in, so they knew what to look for. And that's when Wendy, I think, had a discussion and maybe was able to smooth this over a bit.
So you have, I know that you weren't calling in our RFP, but you have sent out, we're going to call it an RFP just for today, because I'm not sure what, I think
request for applications is what
we're calling it an RFA. Okay, so the county doesn't do RFAs. So you submitted your RFA, which is fine. there's nothing more that you can do now at this point, but provide all the information that Patrice needs so that she can put it into a package for the county government, for those supervisors to review and to move forward with it in whichever way they choose. I don't know the specifics and the ins and outs of that, but I do know that you have made a recommendation for 2 companies. So have that information together, work with Patrice on what information it is that she would like you to provide and be as detailed as possible. Your ratings is very important, how you decided to choose what you chose. And, you know, as Patrice mentioned, put, you know, in why you chose those 2 over the others that submitted applications, and just present it. That's all that we can do at this point.
I just don't want to get into a position where this is potentially delayed another month, especially because there's not, we weren't prepared, or the company wasn't prepared ahead of time with what the county's actually looking for. Because it's not clear that the county knows. It's not clear to me that the county knows what it's looking for, but because we haven't been able to get clarity. But you know, and so I'd hate for something to come up, and maybe one of the supervisors can speak to this. I don't know, but I hate for something to come up at the meeting where they say, "Oh yeah, this is what we need." And had we known that previously, and had Astral known that previously, they could have worked on being prepared with that information, as opposed to, and then we get to a position where we say, "Well, we can move forward only with Nexamp now, or we can wait a month, and then we're, you know, into March." So I know that, Wendy, you've tried to get this information. I don't know if there's anything else we can do. It's still as opaque to me.
The only thing I can suggest, David, is to, you know, we can't speculate or project what's going to happen. You have your information, you have your documents, you have solid recommendations before you. So just be, you know, as thorough, make sure that you dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and produce all of that documentation to Patrice for this county government meeting so that we can get it presented and recommendations can be heard.
Janelle, you're going to say something? Sorry.
Well, I don't want to interrupt this conversation. I was just going to engage in a few platitudes and thank the subcommittee for all the vetting work they're doing. So this is, I think, what you're discussing and trying to iron out everything that needs to be done before leading up to these meetings is far more important than what I'm going to say. So.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other, maybe Tistria, you have some ideas, or Ron, if he's still on.
Well, I think if Wendy has spoken with the county attorney and he is ready for it to know whether there was some requirement before that we haven't provided, and he knows we haven't provided it. So, you know, typically and Ron can speak more to this, once it gets to the committee and the attorney has been involved, whatever it is, and that was part of the problem before, is that we didn't have that involvement, right? And so I kind of got to trust that at this point, you know, Wendy's spoken with the attorney. He's like, yep. And Patrice says, these are the details we need. Could something still happen? Sure. We're a bureaucracy. I mean, it stinks, right? But there might be something brought up at the meeting that no one's thought of. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think this is, you know, this is the path forward. And it sounds like the county attorney has reviewed the process and at this point is ready for it to go to county government. Ron, do you have something different?
Thanks.
No, I agree with you, Tistria. I think the challenge is here, if you were doing a purchase and you were purchasing something, the RFP process is clear. And to David's question, yes, there's a lot of examples where we piggyback off of another municipality's RFP because it says right in that RFP that some other municipality can piggyback on that. That's kind of a standard municipal practice. But our question, I guess, comes up here is this is a gray area that we're not expending any funds in this. So we're entering into a contract with a provider, if you would, or we're entering into a contract to promote a provider, but we're not expending any funds. It's not like we're purchasing a truck, you know. If we were purchasing a truck and there was an expenditure, the controller's office would want to make sure that we followed the rules exactly. But this is a little gray area, I guess, is why this has been a little confusing. So I think, you know, to Tistria's point and Wendy's point, you know, bring it to county government. A lot of towns have done these programs, you know, and they've done it without necessarily doing a formal RFP. committee is comfortable moving ahead with that and the board supports it, then we move in that direction. You've done some good research on who the provider should be, so bring it to the committee.
Okay, great. Thank you, Supervisor Knott. And just a point of clarification, Tara, question. There's no contract formally, and maybe you're just using that word informally, Supervisor Knott, but I just want to be clear. There's no contract between the provider and the community, is there? Or is there an agreement to run a campaign together that would be a written agreement, some might call a contract?
I don't believe I've ever seen a contract. I was just talking about this with Bill Mancini because he was just looking to see, some information about their pay, their structure and when the campaign ends. Or so I don't believe I've ever seen a contract formally. But that may be something that you want to do, or I'm sure they'd be happy to provide that, especially with the fact that you're agreeing to pay out $100 per sign up. That may make sense to have something in writing.
It may just be like an MOU because there's no kind of quid pro quo that you would see in a normal contract. Susan.
Yeah, we use Solstice in our town, and they asked the town to resolve to support the initiative. I don't remember all the words in the resolution, but there was no contract. And to Tara's point, I don't recall how the commitment on the part of the provider on the incentives came about, but we didn't have a contract.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it being something that's contracted, but that's good. Supervisor Knott.
I would think because there's money involved and we're talking about bringing this money in, and then even sharing it, and that could enter into another level of conversation. But I think if the committee chooses to approve this, you can approve the resolution contingent upon county attorney and county controller's, authorization, and then move it through that.
Yeah.
There's going to be some questions from the controller's office if we're going to take in money and then share it. In listening to that conversation, I would be hopeful that maybe we could work with whoever we choose or both, that they could pay 50% to each town and county, and that may complicate things. But rather than the county taking in money and then distributing it like we do sales tax revenue, that has a whole formula and gets complicated. So I don't know. We could talk about that. But again, we pass a lot of resolutions saying that the board approves this company's thing, and to be developed and approved by the county attorney's office in the future. So.
That sounds good, and I agree. There's more complications here than a typical town solar project. So that's great. Before we vote on a recommendation, do we have any other discussion points or comments or questions? So I think the points of, first of all, we're going to vote on recommending both Astral Power and Nexamp, and we're not a formal group, but we'll use the formal process of that motion, or making that motion, and we'll second it in a minute. But I just want to frame it for people. So recommending to the county government that the county board of supervisors select Astral Power, OYA, and Nexamp as community solar providers for the community solar campaign that was previously supported through a previous resolution, and we can clean up that language as we go forward. And I think the second point that needs to be clarified is this point about piggybacking and splitting the benefits. And and of course, what we say doesn't matter that much. The government committee will do what it wants on these details, but they're going to look for guidance, because this is something we've thought about more than they probably have had at that point. So what I would recommend, and we can debate this if there's any discussion or debate before we vote, before we move it, is that any community, any town that bootstraps, meaning they launch, initiate a community solar campaign in conjunction with the county community solar campaign, selecting the same providers, that any individual subscriber signing up in that town would lead to the town and the county getting 50-50 split of any incentives that go to the municipality for that subscriber. And again, we can clean up that language later to make it clearer, but hopefully that's clear based on our discussion here. Any comments or questions on that? Okay.
Does that need a motion? I'll make that motion.
Okay, great.
I'll second it.
Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you all. So we will, the last point I'll make before we move on is the scoping document. I didn't realize that it was so simple and that we could do approval. So I will work with Tara and communicate with folks, Matthew and John, to get a draft together. Our group can get this draft together of a scoping document that we feel will get approved. It doesn't commit the county to anything, pre-approval of sorts. So that would be something that would be nice to go, let the county government know that is another step that has to happen, and it's in process. And then we're not delayed by that after the board hopefully approves this in February. All right, now to more exciting things. We're going to talk quickly about the benchmarking. Quick update from Bill and Wendy, where we're at, if there's any additional need for support from the group here, and then onto the really exciting topic we saved the best for last, the climate carnival. Bill or Wendy, do you want to give us
I could just say that I met with David and Wendy on a video conference last month and discussed how to go about inputting and putting together the information for the EPA portfolio managers website. And Wendy, I see you started a little bit. You put in some of the electric meters for the courthouse, and we still got about 40 more buildings to do, though, right?
Yeah, so this is a very, like I said before, it's a very daunting task.
Yes, it is.
National Grid I'm able to get information off of their bills very easily. NICEAG, not so much.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you're all aware, but our controller's office has gone through a little bit of a change. We had budgets November, December. We now have a new controller, and the office is going through a little bit of a readjustment. So I need to sit down and meet with our new controller. I need to have access to certain things that I don't have at this point. But he really needs to get settled first. So I'm plugging away, I'm inputting information on my own spreadsheet, and I'm uploading them to our portfolio as I can, the EPA portfolio as I can. It's going to take, I was really gung-ho about getting 2020 done as soon as possible. It is taking me a little longer than I had thought. I had spoken with Tara, had her just make sure I was inputting information correctly. She said that I have been, so that's good news. This is a 4-point task, of which we already have 2 points because there is a resolution already to do benchmarking. So I'm just doing 2 years of work to manage in our 2 points. And I know that we're going to go forward to the climate carnival. So I just wanted to, off topic of the benchmarking for a minute, just give you a little update on our points. So I've spent a considerable amount of time on what is the Climate Smart Communities certification application website. I have gone through every task that has been inputted. I have gone to make sure that all of the information has been uploaded so that it actually is complete if it says it was complete on our application, and have found that in many cases, in many instances, that is not the case. It's still missing documentation. So with that being said, sorry, I'm trying to find my, I have so many things going here. Right now, we have 76 100% completed tasks on hand. We have 45 points in process with 74 points for planned. Having said that, a lot of the in-process points I took from the completed points and put it into in-process because they're not completed. There is documentation that is missing. So having said that, though, the completed and in-process are totaling 121. So that's great news. So the completed is completed. The in-process, a lot of them are maybe 75% done. So I see us getting to bronze quickly, not as quickly as I had hoped, but I was a little disheartened when I went through the page thinking that it states that we have 89 out of 1105 points. And I was really hoping that that was the case. And so I just want to give you an update and let you know that the actual and what you're seeing, if you have access to our application, they're not actual. They don't match. And I just wanted to give you an update on that at the moment, just so that you know where we are. Next month, I'll make sure that I have this spreadsheet available for everyone to see. It's really interesting, the points. I know that Alejandra has a million different spreadsheets that she had done, and she did great work. I kind of condensed it to making it very small, so you just see the task, the status, whether it's completed or in process, and the points that are planned if we do consider doing that task or not. So it's a little less information. It's easier to read, and the bottom line shows you a total of all the points.
That's great. Thank you so much, Wendy, for taking over that back end kind of essential administrative piece from Alejandra and carrying that forward. That's obviously essential. Did you just wanted to make sure that it sounds like you have everything that Alejandra had collected a lot of documentation. I'm hoping that there's no gap there, and if there is.
No, she did great. She just noted a lot on her spreadsheets of documentation that was missing. So I was able to go into the application and actually see what was uploaded and see that, yes, that documentation is still missing. I, in good faith, can't say that tasks are completed if documentation is missing, because we can't submit it if it's not complete.
Right.
So that's why I had to kind of revamp the point system so that we had a clear view of what we're working with and what we need to do to go forward.
Great. Again, thank you for taking the lead on that. Steve.
Thanks, Wendy. It sounds like you've done a great job there. Appreciate it. One thing, having gone through this process already, that I highly recommend is that we don't just submit 120. As we found, we submitted 130 something, I think 135 points, and they knocked out, I think, 15 or so, or whatever it was. So we should definitely over plan or over submit, whatever it is, because you never know the person who's evaluating how they're going to feel about it. We may think we've completed it all, but they may beg to differ, and then we're knocked out for another cycle. And basically, you don't know until the end, until it's too late. So just a suggestion.
Great. Yeah, and soon enough we'll have a structured discussion in one of our upcoming meetings. Now that we're processing through some of these projects, about what planned projects we can get to next to get those point totals up higher than 121 for the submission. Mark, did you want to add something, or I saw you pop on there, and I know you've had a lot of experience in this. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just thought maybe you had something to add.
Sure. I just want to say that Wendy's experience of like going through all the actions and finding there's more documentation needed, and having to clean up, all the actions. That's sort of what we went through in New Lebanon, and also just a continual process. We're now working towards silver, and there's a continual documentation effort. And the other thing is that once you get to bronze, you also have to maintain a lot of the actions. You have to go back and redo them or update them. So there is just a lot of documentation required by the coordinator to get up to speed.
Okay. Well, thanks for that update, and thanks for all that work. It's not glamorous, it's behind the scenes, but it's fundamental and it's essential to what we're trying to do here. So we appreciate it, and we celebrate, and we will celebrate. And that leads us into the Climate Carnival, which is a big celebration that people are planning. And Jolene and Tistria have taken the bull by the horns here, and there's a lot of energy. And why don't you guys take it away?
Go ahead, Jolene.
Oh, okay. So we've had 2 meetings so far to discuss the carnival that we're planning. We have a tentative date, but I'm pretty sure we're going to go with it, of July 16th. It is penciled in at the fairgrounds. Next week, I will be giving a presentation to the fair board just to go over an overview of what the project is, what it's going to detail. We have some really wonderful ideas moving forward. I'm working on the insurance requirement through the county insurance and county attorney's office. So as it looks right now, the county policy will cover it. We're just working on some waivers that we, the repair cafe, bicycle recycling and such. Tistria, do you want to go over kind of some of the game plan that we have?
Yeah, so David sent out a document to everyone that was kind of our, I guess, mission statement. Thank you to Susan for coming up with a wonderful document that kind of summarizes, what are we looking to do? We came up with the name Climate Carnival because it's really fun, and instead of just the environmentalists coming, I'm picturing, family fun, hands-on activities. Could we get a solar provider that has a hands-on, connect the line to the bulb, and the bulb lights up and you see directly how solar works? Or, could David find a farmer to bring a bin of earthworms that the kids can, watch the worms eat the dirt? And just a lot of like really interactive hands-on. We're talking about having food vendors and music. And each of us on the subcommittee is kind of overseeing one part. So I'm going to organize a countywide free store and bike recycling program. Mark, I haven't talked to you about it yet, but you're going to be working with me on that. And, my vision there is like once the county approves the event, getting an email out to all town clerks and town supervisors and saying, hey, are you willing to accept clothing and shoe donations in your town over the next 6 months, and can you store them there, or do you need us to come pick them up and I can store them here in New Lebanon? And then we're going to have just a giant free, it's going to take a lot of setup and all that. Susan's working on composting. David's working on, what's that word again, David, with the farming?
Natural sequestration, climate-friendly farming.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some biochar there. We're going to talk about tree planting and how you can plant trees and where you can get trees, and hopefully have some information which talks about different practices that are being used here in the county of regenerative and climate-friendly farming. Denal, we should connect. If you're interested, it would be great to pick your brain on some of that as well.
Sure.
But so, as we get further along, I'm sure we're going to us or any of us that want to join our smaller group to help us mobilize. We're going to need volunteers. So I don't know if Tistri, you want to.
Well, one thing we're actually looking for right now, if anyone has this in their wheelhouse, is somebody to kind of oversee the marketing and promotion aspects. If and when the county approves it, we're hoping to get an approval from this committee, that they get it to county government, get it through full board. But the idea is we don't have a budget per se, but we have, central printing and mailing through the county. Jolene has a department where she can do, we have a county website, we have a county Facebook page. The more groups that we involve, the CLC and other groups all have their own, all the town sees, we're going to be inviting everyone to come and set up a table or set up a demonstration or set up something, whatever they want. So, somebody to kind of promotions. We talked about a logo. I know a logo is a very specific skill set, so maybe we're not going to end up having a logo this year, but if somebody has that skill set, great. So you don't necessarily need to raise your hand here, although you could, but get in touch with Jolene or I, because that's one piece that we're missing. We would ask if you are willing to take that on to kind of join our subcommittee. We meet once a month, and then from that meeting, you'll kind of know what the next steps are with the marketing and promotion.
And if no one here is has those skills or has the time, that's understandable. But if anyone has any ideas for folks outside of this group who have might be good for that, might be able to help us with communications and marketing, that would be great. So that's exciting. We're all, also look to bring some commercial vendors in, who have obviously the community solar the providers, they'll want to be there. That'll be a good opportunity for them. But others, solar installers, EV charger, EV companies, maybe we can get some cars there. Someone mentioned doing a drag race. I don't think that's going to get approved, but we're thinking about an EV drag race. Not gonna. It would be cool. And then we thought maybe in New Lebanon we can go to the racetrack and have an EV race, but a very quiet one. Steve, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, Mark had gone back and reviewed the CSC website and found, and I encourage everybody to do this. They have updated all the action items there. So he found another one called it's a PE8 called Green Vendor Fair. If we did this, applied for this, it only takes 1 a year points. So that's an easy 2 points that we'll be able to get for the county, and we'll be doing it also at the town level.
That's great. And I'm sure the towns could bootstrap on that if they show up and they're part of it, part of the planning and all that. So that's great.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are other points that are also available, through that public education and outreach area of the Climate Smart. We'll look closely at it.
Well, David, just on the public engagement action, you need a strategy. It's not just one event, and then you need 2 events per year. So we would need an agreed and approved overall climate education engagement strategy, and then but this climate carnival could definitely be one of those.
And one I would imagine could be virtual too, right? So
Sure.
We could do something, in the winter, getting the community together online, perhaps.
Yeah,
that's cool. Well, let's flesh that out more. That as part of this, make sure we don't lose sight of that larger picture as we work on this project. Terrence,
I was just wondering if there's going to be, I guess, cost to this. Would it make sense to try and find sponsorships? I know that CLC will often sponsor, weekend conferences that we're involved in planning, for instance, and there may be other county businesses or organizations. So if there were some idea of like what kind of a budget this would require, that might be another task of the marketing line.
So we talked about that at our meeting, Terrence, and the county is constrained similar to how towns are, where we can't solicit donations. So if the CLC said, hey, I see you're doing this carnival and we want to pay $1,000 for marketing, then we could accept that donation, but we can't go out and solicit through a sponsorship type of thing. So one of my visions was, and CLC was one of the first I thought of, you know, organizations that get involved that want to contribute in some way, you know, could either or. I almost feel instead of donating to the county $1,000 for us to use for marketing, if the CLC is willing to help market, like we provide the materials, here's our logo, here's our flyer, and you're going to buy $500 in Facebook ads to push the event through your own budget, through like that almost seems better. And Ron, I think you probably agree, you know, part of what you were talking about with the CLC is like, hey, let them help promote, educate, all opposed to a donation to the county, because we don't necessarily need a budget per se. Maybe if some organizations like the CLC saw an area where they could help, such as paid promotions, you know, maybe that's something that your board could approve and do through you. You know, maybe you could hire a marketing person I don't know what that looks like, but that might be the easier way to go about it, is like, hey, here's the materials, any way that you can help get it out there. I don't know how others feel, or Ron, how you feel the role of other organizations could play.
Yeah, I would think if we had a corporate underwriter for the process like that, then all of the advertising promotion can have their tag logo, and you know, they're promoting us, but it's coming from them, and I think that's something that then we're hands off of a little bit. I still might want to talk to Rob Fitzsimmons about that just to make sure I'm right, but that sounds safer to me, as you say.
Well, that sounds great. I don't personally have a lot of marketing experience, but if you can loop me into that subcommittee then, and I can kind of relay this back to CLC and see what we can do, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome. Thanks, Terrence.
And we are developing a list of organizations, you know, we'll be making, once we develop this further, making it clear to them how they can support going up ahead of time. So that is exciting. One of the things I wanted to add is Don Meltz from the planning department is on our committee. Fortunately, he does a lot of the web work, managing the website, and he's sent us an email yesterday after our meeting where he's suggesting kind of a tagline. We were talking about how Climate Carnival is great, but maybe it needs a tag help to explain what it is to a lot of people who may not understand what that is. And his tagline was celebrate, educate, motivate. And his idea is to focus on celebrating the accomplishments that we've made in the county, towns, individuals, businesses, county, in this geographic location. Educate folks about how it was done, how they can participate, and what they can do, and motivate people into positive action. And I think a big point here is that we're not suggesting that this is that this is all happy news, but what we are doing is trying to maintain a positive attitude, to be proactive and empowering people to take action instead of really highlighting and overwhelming people with the doom and gloom of the news of climate change. Although there'll be plenty of opportunity for public education to let people know what the impacts are and what the concerns are, I'm sure, as well. So just wanted to share that. It's exciting to me to be able to connect with people on a positive note. These are serious times and serious issues, and they're sobering. But I think personally, having the ability to motivate people with a positive vision of the future is key. We're not sugarcoating anything, but we're letting people know that we're moving forward. We're not just sitting here and commiserating on what's wrong in the world. So that's exciting that's the way this is taking shape.
Well said.
So that's all we have. I mean, Jolene, of course, we're always happy to hear a quick update on the solid waste program. If there's anything in particular that you want to highlight with the composting project or recycling or anything else of the good work you're doing there, if you want to add a quick update. I didn't have it on the agenda, but just.
Oh, sure. Last month we removed the containers that were at the Copac and Chatham station. We collected approximately 14 pounds of material from the Chatham station, about 10 pounds from the Copac station. The material was excellent. We were really, really excited. And our thought process was that when you don't mandate a program and you make it, volunteer, have the people do it on their own behalf, that you get a good material. So hopefully in March, we will start rolling bins out to all the stations, ramp up our educational portion of it, start collecting material to see what exactly the volume of material we're going to be handling. And then from that point, decide if it's something that we're going to continue taking to GrowMax, or if we can start working with community gardens. This is a crazy month for us. We're doing year end and all our annual reports. So January kind of gets lost in the mix of getting programs implemented. But over the winter, we will start reaching out to the towns, seeing what's out there, what options are available, and keep that program going. The master plan, we are waiting for our draft copy to come back, be reviewing it, and then put a timeline out for public comments on it, and hopefully have that adopted by the end of March. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else? All right. Well, we kept it under 2 hours. An hour and 12 minutes. Pretty good.
Oh, look at that. I thought I had to leave early. I don't have to leave early. I just wanted to say, and I should have said it earlier, I'm so excited to have Wendy on board. Wendy, thank you for all your hard work. And Jolene, I am thrilled about this carnival. Excellent idea. And Terrence, thanks for joining our group. And anyone else, I mean, I think there's 8 or 9 of us right now, but there is a lot of work to be done. So if that sounds really exciting to anyone, you can either join our subcommittee, or each of us, like Bruce's the document we sent out. If not, maybe Jolene can send out to this group who's overseeing what, because if you don't want to join our subcommittee, there's going to be each of us having a subcommittee focused on something like the free store, and we're going to definitely look for people from this group to then join us, where you don't have to do the monthly meetings with all of us, but then we'll have separate meetings about just the free store or about just that. Do you mind, Jolene, actually distributing kind of who to contact if someone wants to work on the composting group? They'll contact Susan. Free store, they'll contact me.
Okay, I'll get that out tomorrow.
Awesome. Yay, I'm really excited. Thank you all.
I forgot, what, do we need to make a motion for recommendation to the government committee?
Yes.
To go forward? Do you want to do that, Tistria?
I will make a motion that we recommend moving forward with the Climate Carnival in July at the county fairgrounds as a county event, with the task force putting it on.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I heard ayes. Any opposed? Great. Very exciting. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, Tistria, and everyone else. And have a great day. And we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, David.
Take care.
All right. Thank you, David.
David.
Thank you.